we do this just to keep everybody in the Commons Stack updated on our advancements on our ongoing research. Jeff and I end up being the trailblazers a lot of time, pushing towards new directions. So, but why don't we just kick it off with you have a really cool interview going on tomorrow with someone that I haven't heard of, but she sounds super famous. What? Tell us.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So Nora Bateson is the head of the Bateson Institute. So she comes from a long line of Batesons, of course. Gregory Bateson and oh crap, I forget her grandfather's name. But anyway, a long line of systems thinkers, complexity thinkers. So the Bateson Institute is all about complexity and managing complexity. And Nora's big thing is warm data. So when we look at like big data is like, used for like, corporates to extract value from users and so on and so forth. And warm data is about like bringing data back to the context. So in other words, like keeping the interrelational values sort of intact when you're using data. So I've been trying to get in touch with Nora and the Bateson Institute for quite a while. So this is a great connection through the Systems Innovation Group, because I think cadCAD is the perfect tool for warm data. Because we need, highly interrelated data sets, and we need to be able to use those, in contexts that are appropriate for them, and also, giving people the power to own and control their data, and so on and so forth. So I think, there will be some really interesting conversation and connections between warm data and cadCAD as a tool to help manage that and make operational decision support off of that tool.
And this is a live stream? Like, is this something people can watch live and actually interact with? Or is it just an interview?
No, it should be a live stream. I will get all the information. I believe it'll be streamed on YouTube. So I'll find the link and share that in the comments below.
Super cool. That's exciting. And with cadCAD's community coming in, I assume they'll end up seeing this, right? Is it part of the cadCAD community?
Yeah, definitely. I plan on sharing it on the forum and the Discord as well. And yeah, the cadCAD community has really been waking up. It's been great to see. We've got our next community call coming up in 2 weeks. So Friday, August 28th. It'll be for kind of a Europe morning, Asia and Australia afternoon, just so we can make sure we're covering a bunch of different time zones. The other one was more North America and Europe focused. So, and we're going to be hosting Barnaby Monod for
Amazing.
E2. So
amazing.
Yeah. Have you looked at his notebook? Actually, it is fantastic.
Yeah. Incredible. Well, he has two of them for the gas and for the actual like ETH2 stuff.
Yeah.
So 151 or 151, well, 1559. It was a little different than 151, but just as crazy. It's good for parties. It's super cool. I mean, he seems to be. I don't even know what he looks like. But I stared at his notebooks for like an hour. They're really cool.
Yeah, and he's
go ahead,
doing some really great work. So I'm excited to have him on the call for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to stay up late for that one. I'm moving to the West Coast, so I don't know how. I don't care what time.
I think it's like 1 a.m. Oh, I'm planning on being there too. Yeah,
no problem. I'll go to bed early. Wake up at 1. So that's cool. Yeah, on the cadCAD front for the Commons Simulator, we really need a second cadCAD person. I mean, Andrew's doing an incredible job, and we have like the whole thing outlined. It's just a lot of work. And it's starting to get to the fun part where we start tuning and we can actually, because the model is basically done. There's just some little pieces to catch, and then it's like, okay, all the pieces are in place. Now let's parameterize and let's like figure out how to do this. I think that's the funnest part. So we're looking for someone to help him, like, so he can bounce ideas off of it, and someone maybe who has some more data science experience.
For sure.
But man, the Commons Simulator is looking so cool. I got to share the Marco's latest work. So I think I shared the last mockups for the intro, but this is another level here. Let's see. I'll just refresh. But yeah, Marco is just killing it. I don't know how this guy does this because it's just so good. Uh-oh, gotta give you a preview. Okay, so okay, sure, we can start from the beginning again. So it's gonna be like this, apocalyptic sci-fi adventure that kind of turns, says the world ends up into a dystopia where no one cares about commons and public goods. And what do you know? The Earth then just fails because of human selfishness and short-sightedness. And but there's some nerd geniuses that end up staying in like secret labs, and they turn a remote control into cadCAD and a time travel machine, and then from there we actually drop into in Barcelona, where we become a person who I know, actually. Her name is Nick. She ends up drop in as this character, and you have no idea who you are, and it's just like, oh my god, I'm like this really cute girl in Barcelona, crazy, and then you find out that you're going to a radical exchange meetup, and you're like, this is the perfect opportunity to talk to people who are on the forefront of commons innovation and economic innovation, so we can change history. And then you actually get to parameterize a commons. So you'll get to choose a few different, like how many hatchers you have, and then you get to choose how many proposals you have, right? And then we get to and we give little explainers about what each parameter is. And then we go to funding, and now we start like talking about conviction voting, and this is actually for beta, the beta factor in conviction voting, how much can be distributed at one time. And we haven't done the mock-ups for the last one, which is deciding how long it takes for your voting power to reach maximum power. So but the mock-ups are looking great, and it's finally coming together, mostly because Marco is a superstar, I gotta say. So I'm pretty excited to move forward with this.
Yeah, that's looking fantastic. Wow, cool. Nice to give a little teaser for what's to come.
Yeah,
that is exciting. And I mean, it's really great to see these kinds of simulators. So the idea is, we're taking cadCAD, the like raw backend of cadCAD, which does all the computation, but we're couching it in a story and a narrative that users can understand, because data science is not the most user-friendly. If you look at a Python notebook or Jupyter notebook, or Python code, sometimes it's like, whoa, what is this trying to tell me? So if we can kind of like, I think the simulator series is really important, for the Commons Stack, but also for, the Aragon conviction voting notebook that we're doing, and maybe Barnaby's notebook. I loved his notebook because it has like GIFs in there, not GIFs, memes in there, just something to like convey the important stuff without getting too deep in the math and the technical. So I think these kinds of simulators will be super cool.
This stuff can be fun. It's important, but it can be fun at the same time, right? Like cadCAD is a time travel machine, and it will help you predict
crystal
the future.
Ball.
It'll help you change the future, and so we want to give it that entertaining value and that importance with these kind of fun adventures, and at the end, people can hopefully have an aha moment about like, oh, I see why I might want to simulate a design, because look, I can actually see if these parameters work better than those parameters, instead of just YAMLOing and just going like, let's deploy in 10 days. Who knows? The government should work fine,
YAMLO. I like it.
Yeah. There's some action though. I mean, we do a lot of work in conviction voting, but you mentioned that there's some Aragon's almost done with their conviction voting, right?
Yep, correct. So there's a notebook. It's a public repo on Block Science's repo. It's called Block Science /Aragon_conviction_voting. There's actually 3 models that have been created so far. Let me share my screen briefly here. So within this, you've got kind of an overview of conviction voting. We have a V1 notebook, V2, and V3. So V1 is very, very basic, and we kind of took the iterative approach again. V2, we added in things like sentiment and influence and the things we had in the Commons Stack conviction notebook. And then V3 is really like trying to replicate the one hive model. So this is going to be deployed in like Aragon DAOs. It's already deployed in one hive. So this is basically, you know, adding the complexity and the realism to mimic the real system. There are a couple changes from like what we did in our conviction voting notebook. So sentiment for proposals, or sorry, affinity to proposals can go from +1 to -1. So rather than from 0 to 1. So we're starting to get into like people disliking proposals and liking proposals, and yeah, some more fleshed out mathematics. So basically just formalizing all the properties of conviction voting. And the whole point of this notebook is it's going to be extremely well documented. So, you know, I've been going through and like putting in English to explain the math, you know, because a lot of the time I think when we scroll through these notebooks, it's like, oh, okay, that's for the mathematicians, but it's important for us to understand exactly what these kind of invariants are. And of course, you know, some of these plots and the trigger function logic, it looks a lot more difficult than it is. But again, this is kind of the importance of the mathematical formalization is not, you know, everyone reads this and understands, but essentially this is saying, you know, there's the parameter beta, which you just showed us in the common simulator, that, you know, there won't be proposals that can ask for more than beta% of the total pool. And this is basically just like an electron repulsion equation. So I really like the way, you know, when Block Science does their design, they're really using, you know, natural principles wherever possible. So so this electron repulsion equation basically controls the, you know, the trigger function. You know, it gets exponentially impossible to pass a proposal that requests more than, you know, this is what, 17.5% of funds, you know, and also that's at a low effective supply. So as you have more effective supply and you're asking for more of the funds, it's just going to get very, very difficult. You know, the conviction is super high. So the math looks complicated, but really what it's saying is pretty simple. We're using, you know, natural principles to kind of bound the system. And that's really important in token engineering, is our bounds and our initial conditions.
I'm curious about the honey. Like, what is one hive's model exactly?
So like factoring it out to honey. So like one honey is 10 DAI. So for example, some of the like, you know, funds versus like how much is in the pool, we were using like DAI in the past. So just making sure we're using honey. Where they're using honey. So we want to make sure that the system, because it's, well, one honey right now is about $10. So in our V2 notebook, we were counting things in DAI, so things were kind of off by a factor of 10. So we're matching that. Also,
so they're still using the augmented bonding curve, or are they not? But if they're using the augmented bonding curve with honey in it.
They're not using a bonding curve. So this is set up with just like a inflationary token. So like Bitcoin style. So like tokens are issued every X period. Some of the next things we're going to do in this model, which is really interesting. I think we've got it at the bottom here. Oh, actually, maybe we've got. This looks like something's broken in this notebook at the moment. But some of the next steps is to model honey on Uniswap. So, you know, when it's connected to Uniswap, people can enter, people can exit, you know, and we're going to model things like, you know, if someone comes in and buys up a bunch of governance tokens, you know, how does that affect the system? Those are some of the future, actually, that's not within scope of this current contract, but that will be very important for kind of like ecosystem modeling moving forward. So right now we're really focusing in on the conviction voting aspect and taking that, you know, iterative approach. So we've created 3 notebooks so far, and really what we want to do is turn these into educational tools and training tools. So we can say, okay, hey, here's V3. Now we need to wire up a Uniswap you know, instance, and how do we do that and turn these kind of into training and to get more of the CAD community involved in model creation and expanding on what's already out there.
Yeah. The One Hive crew is amazing, man. They're just incredible. In fact, oh man, we didn't have this on the list, but I should mention that we actually just deployed our DAO to xDAI. So, and of course, One Hive made all of this possible. I was trying to get Aragon on xDAI like a year and a half ago. I mean, you were with me, and we were Aragon DAC. And like, we're going to xDAI, and it just couldn't happen. And then One Hive came in, and they finally got us there. And it's so in time. It's finally just in time. Where
right when gas fees are exploding.
I mean, we can't do governance on there. We can't even issue CStack tokens. It was costing us like $60, and that one was when gas was like 30. You know, now that gas is 300. I mean, it'd be like $300 to issue tokens every month. It's not even worth it. So, but now we're on xDAI, and I think the thing will be complete here in probably by the end of the week. We'll have
that's
our goal is to actually add conviction voting to it and start having CStack token holders use conviction voting.
Super exciting. The One Hive crew is just killing it. I love those guys, and they've already deployed Uniswap contracts on xDAI, so there's lots of functionality coming that will avoid these crazy ETH gas fees.
Yeah, a lot of projects on xDAI. Kickback moved to xDAI.
Nice.
Man, I'm blanking. There are a few others too that are like, we're moving.
Cool, good call. Yeah, and I mean, there's lots of interest around these tools and around cadCAD. You know, since running the cadCAD call, I've been getting messages from people who are like, oh, I'm working on a model about this. I've been chatting with Zargam the past few years. I'm working on a model for that. So it's really cool to see more of the community getting involved. And speaking of which, the Token Engineering Academy has their ecosystem value flows course, which I think they're starting up a second round. Is that like the first one went so well, they had 100% of the people who carried out their survey saying, they would definitely recommend and really seeing more people coming together around the token engineering practice, which is, specify your system, gather your requirements, understand your initial conditions and the bounds of your system, model it, simulate, test, and then deploy. So there's really a bunch of steps there that don't exist in a lot of, in the yams that are out there, that spin up and launch in 10 days with unaudited contracts and, unknown effects on the DeFi ecosystem. So we're really pushing for the responsible and engineered and well thought out, public infrastructure that isn't just there to pump and dump some money into traders' pockets.
Yeah, why aren't these Ponzi schemes using cadCAD? They really need to get their act together.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, I'll tell you, we are getting our act together on the Token Engineering Commons. I think I want to make sure we have a chance to talk about that because we had something really interesting. So one of the cool things about doing the Token Engineering Commons is that we get to learn a lot about the cultural build and what's important, what's not important. And we focused on doing the mission, the vision, and the values, and code of conduct. And we have those basically all done for the initial set. We're going to come back to them all as more people join and we actually get more work done, probably in about a month or 2 months. We're going to review the code of conduct or review all the pieces before we launch. But one thing that we missed was decision making and how decisions get made. And I honestly, I wish if I could go back, we would have that as the very first thing that we talk about is how do decisions get made? Because it's been kind of just like, okay, so now what? A lot, and it's funny because it's like, no, but we want to make this big governance structure, right? But we need a governance structure before we can make the governance structure. That being said, we have a really cool roadmap. I don't know, sharing screen is too hard, but I'll put a link to the roadmap below. It's really pretty. You should check it out. But next week is going to be really cool because I saw this with the ecosystem value flows that in one of the reward group calls, they were talking about how they want to design a token model for the review committee. and Ethic Hub is working on their token model, and like lots of token models coming on. And what we're realizing with the Token Engineering Commons is we need some way to reward the people who are participating right now, because it's a lot of thankless work. And we're not even, as Shebna mentioned, that we need to be tracking contributions. And it's such an important call. And we may need to figure out a way to reward the community stewards who are putting in this effort, that they can, because like Livy and I work for the Commons Stack, so we're putting on, for sure, way more effort than everybody else, but that's because that's our job. And it's no one else's job. So we got to figure out some kind of way to make it rewarding for them. And that's what we're going to talk about next week. I'm going to try to propose a few options, and then we're going to see where we go from there. But if you want to check out the vision, values, mission, and code of conduct, those are all we have our initial versions set, and we're moving forward 1 week at a time. So it's really cool. We're making a lot of progress. And another thing that's really interesting that the Commons might get looped into if when we get there with the working group. But I had this really cool call. It came through the Giveth angle, because Giveth needs a legal entity. And we've been talking to Jess, actually introduced us to the SDG Impact Fund. And these guys blew my mind. They are just heroes. They're doing all the admin work for charities, where you can there's these things called donor advised funds, which I was looking at for Giveth when we started Giveth a long time ago. But I'd never heard of anyone doing it besides kind of like a foundational structure, like a personal foundation, or universities. Those were like the main users. But it seemed like it's the closest thing to a DAO, and really it follows exactly what we were trying to do with Giveth, where the donors decide where the money goes, and yeah, these guys did it. They basically just take a 5% cut of all donations and do all the legal stuff for you. You can just come in and be a good person, or a group of people who want to like make the world better, and they take care of all the crap that you don't want to do that just gets in the way. I mean, these guys are heroes. So I recorded the call that I had with Tony and Brian from the SDG Impact Fund. And sadly, it starts like 10 minutes into the call. But when Tony started talking and it was just such gold, I was like, hold on, I got to record. This is too good, and I took notes, and I'm just like putting that in the comments here. But if you're looking to start a nonprofit, they will give you a bank account. They can take crypto. They take 5% on the money as it comes in, but they don't take any percentage if the money goes up. If someone donates a Bitcoin, it's worth 10K and it goes to 100K, they only took 5% of the 10K, and then you have complete control of where the money goes after that. They just have to administer it for you, and they can give tax receipts. It's incredible. It's a dream come true, and I think we're going to start. I have a proposal. I'm still going to talk to Coach B about the Swiss entity and do some other due diligence around research. And we're going to try it out with these guys for Giveth. And then I think the Commons Stack is going to follow suit, and probably even the Token Engineering Commons, because anyone who donates from the States can get a tax deductible receipt no matter what they donate, crypto or not.
And that's so key. Like, that's what donors are, like, it just seems to be the first question is like, do you get a tax receipt? Yeah, here it is. And like, yeah, it's such a nice way to bridge the crypto and the fiat world in a legally binding, legally what's the word I'm looking for?
Compliant.
Yeah. Anyway, compliant. That's the word. Yeah. So it's a nice way to bridge these kind of like crypto for public goods projects with like the real world of people that really want to see this technology happen. So really, really exciting stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I mean, but it's just the one piece of the puzzle, right? There's a lot of pieces that need to be in place. So like one of the things that I saw come out, I guess it was a couple of weeks ago, was this potluck, the CIC potluck. I haven't been following. I put my name on the Excel spreadsheet, but I haven't actually like followed through. Do you know what's going on with that?
Yeah, so this is basically like Will Ruddick runs the Community Inclusion Currencies project, and the whole CIC potluck. He's been going around Kenya because they're basically transitioning the grassroots economic system from one that's supported by external donors to one that's supported by the community itself. So he's been going to villages and holding workshops and basically saying, okay, everybody, like put down your commitments. Like, what can you give for this community? So people put flour or food or water or education, whatever they have to offer, and then they say how much collateral commitment they can put in. So this used to be donor funds from the Red Cross, but Will really wants to see these to be like sustainable mutual aid networks rather than relying on like external philanthropy. So basically he's bringing villages together and saying, hey, here's your commitments in, goods or services, and here's your commitment in collateral. Let's pool the collateral in a smart contract in the bonding curve. And now we all basically agree to accept that CIC in return for these goods and exchanges that we've committed. So that's worked really well in these communities for everyone to understand that it's not just a currency. Like, anybody can make money. The tricky thing is getting people to accept the money. So this whole potluck process is basically like the hatch of a CIC. Everyone comes together and says, how much are they willing to, like, goods and services are they willing to accept for CICs? How much collateral are they willing to put in the pool? And then it issues CICs, some of which go to you as a contributor and some of which go to a community project. So exactly like the reserve pool and the community funding pool. And they're actually doing it online also with the CIC community and the Community Currency Alliance channel, really getting all of these people who are working on the technology or contributing comms and education, or all the various skills we have in our own community, and looking to create a CIC for the CIC community, and see if we can really kind of bring the hatch. In my mind, it's a more like low tech hatch. It's like a spreadsheet. We'll drop the link down below. I think you have to request access to Will Ruddick if you are interested in participating. But yeah, it's basically people putting in what they're willing to commit and receive in CICs and how much collateral they're willing to back the pool with. And of course, that collateral may need to be supplemented by another group, which there seem to be lots of people interested in supporting this kind of initiative. So it'll be really interesting to see how it's kind of a different flavor of the hatch. And it seems like a bunch of groups are kind of circling around the same ideas at the moment. The One Hive team with their gardens template are also looking at a hatch kind of without a pre-sale. You made a really good point. That SourceCred is kind of like a hatch. It's like a labor hatch. You put in the labor up front and you get the tokens, as opposed to you put in the capital up front and you get the tokens, and then that capital is used to raise labor to do things in the community. So there's a couple of different ways of coming at the initialization of these systems, and I think that's a pretty neat one as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're way too focused on the currency part. Currency part is means to an end. It's honestly the invisible. It's the visible layer of the invisible economy. And the real value in currencies is not the currency. It's in the access to the economy that uses the currency. And so if you're going to create a currency, then it's not going to have any value unless there's an economy that wants to utilize that currency. And I love the CIC approach of basically pointing that out. This potluck makes that explicitly clear. The currency is worthless without this service and that service and this service and that service. And this is, the hatch is also, we think of it as a very financially focused piece, but that's why we need the cultural build, and we need the pieces of like, what are the proposals, at least for the Commons Stack model, what proposals are we going to use to fund with this economy? And you can't have the hatch without those proposals already up front. And that's even included in the Commons simulator, where it's like, how many proposals are there going to be to start? And that's an input. And I'll give you a hint. If there's too few, it's probably not going to work out well. So, but also if there's too many, and you might also have issues too. So there's going to be a sweet spot in all these things. So it's really, I really love what Will Ruddock is doing. I mean, it's amazing. He is a superstar. Grassroots economics, they're helping the blockchain space out so much, and on top of that, they're also helping people in Kenya at the same time. It's incredible. And I should say on that front, because I think we're almost out of time, but I had a really cool. I get a lot of these same insights that we're talking about here from the CCA calls. They have just been spectacular. The last week was really good. I had this guy Tim Jenkins who broke out of prison, and Harry Potter, the actor
under apartheid.
Yeah. I mean, he's an apartheid revolutionary. He's a trailblazer in cryptography, advanced cryptography. He used normal phone lines to send cryptographic messages over the phone, right, to Zambia and South Africa from London. So he created an encrypted network of like garbled messages that they would play with a tape recorder over a phone, so that they could plan a revolution in South Africa to overcome apartheid. This guy is incredible. And then he goes on to start the largest community currency system in the world. And he was all about just like on top of it, like it's not a currency, it's community exchange. And then it's a community exchange system. And that's what it's about. It's not about currencies. It's about communities exchanging goods and services and value. Tomer was also on the call, and it was really sad because Tomer had an incredible story too. But it's hard to argue with the guy who's got Harry Potter playing him in a movie, right? Like, but Tomer from Seabed had some really cool input too. I had no idea he was so deep in the community currency space as an OG, and like so many good calls. And this week we're gonna have Fernanda from the Commons Engine and Holochain.
Nice.
It's good to get some like Latin flavor in the mix. We always have Julio, and he's like, when are we gonna get someone from the South? So we finally have that coming. And then also one of my friends, actually Dan Finley, who I never get to talk to. But first time I did VR, it was with him and Aaron from MetaMask, and now it's like I think it's been a year since I really talked to him, so I'm pretty excited to have him on the call and chat about local currencies.
Nice, that'll be a good call. I haven't caught up on last week's, but I've got it queued at the top of my list. I'm excited when I have an hour to check that out, and we'll drop the link to that as well down below. And also the link to the upcoming call, because we figured out a Google Calendar hack. And this is a hack that you would not like when you're sharing events. You can't share. It's really tricky to share events in Google Calendar. So Griff actually stumbled upon the secret, and I managed to reproduce how to share a calendar event. So you can click a link, and then it just opens up in your calendar, and you can click add to calendar, and it's just there. And the trick behind it is you have to do it in a public calendar. So if you have a team calendar, or Griff made his calendar public, so you can also do that. You can create an event, and then once the event is created, if you click the three dots, there should be something that says publish. And when you click publish, you'll see a couple of links, and one of those links is a URL that you can send out, and you can test it on your browser. But when you click it, it'll open up in their calendar, and they can just click add, and it's all there with the time and the links and everything like that. So you don't have to add them email by email to this event. You can just share the link, and people can add that to their calendar. So that's our little Google Calendar hack of the day.
Yeah, because we couldn't figure out why it was working from my account and no one else's. And it's because years ago I made my calendar public, so probably to fix this issue. And I forgot. So it's like, I don't know why it works for me, guys. I'll just do it every time. But it's so much better.
You're also radical transparency.
Yeah.
Everyone can know what I'm doing all the time.
Yeah, true. But yeah, so now we just use the token engineering calendar, though, right? So we just add it to the engineering calendar, and then we publish it from there, and it works. And then you can send everyone a link, and it's much easier than having to get their email and invite them and stuff like that. So
yeah,
but yeah,
so hopefully that can help alleviate your event booking issues in the future.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's the research roundup. So thank you again, and we'll be back in 2 weeks.
See you, everybody.
Thanks, Jeff. See you, buddy. Live streaming.